So, you want to bag your Honda Civic VTI. Hello everyone, welcome back to Fitment TV. I am Julianeri, your new host, and behind me is my Honda Civic VTI. Now, this is actually a very special video to me, not just because I am the new host of So You Want to Bag Your, but actually, yes indeed, this is my car and we have indeed bagged it. So, quick backstory actually. I met Kyle about a year ago, and ever since then I already knew what fitment engineering was. So ever since I met him, in my mind I imprinted that I will bag my car the following year. And slightly over a year, here we are in fitment engineering, indeed with the bagged Civic. So, quick trivia. In the Philippines, we actually call the VTI or the LXI a bigote because if you can look at the bumpers, front and back, it has a garnish piece that actually looks like a mustache. Now, this is very different from not very different from an SIR body, but if we talk about the legit SIR, which I do not actually want to dive into because this is not a Honda boy video, but actually an air suspension video. So, before this gets any longer, please do like and share the video, subscribe for more, and please click on the notification bell as it does help the channel. So, please lend me your ears, give me your attention as we dive into the technical parts of the under chassis segment. Now let's dive into the front section of our airbag setup. So as you can see, we are using the Civics have a double wishbone suspension, meaning that we have two control arms, our upper control arm, which as you can see, I actually have a adjustable camber arm at the top. And then we have one more here down at the bottom. And then, so you can see, this is our bag. This is actually an RX bag. It's a sleeve bag. And there's actually a lot of clearance here at the back. I can actually fit my fingers through. And our main hurdle with this was our air out, because clearance-wise, we were good. Our air out, we had to do a little bit of modification on the body of our shocks. So actually, if you don't know, our front shock setup sa mga Civic actually is it shoots into a fork, and in that fork, on the shock body, around right here, if you can see, there's actually a stopper here that gets wedged in between the shock fork. Now, we grinded that down so that we could max out our air down. So, the body of the shock sits down lower. Ngayon, nasagad na namin yung harap. Yan lang ang may sasagad namin na safe kasi yung pinakababa ng shock body malapit na sa axle. So, syempre, we don't want anything hitting, and that is the max that we can go with our stock shocks. Am I happy with it? Of course I am. We went lower than expected. I was able to air out lower. Ride quality was not compromised. And overall, the RX bag is a very, very comfortable bag. Okay, now that we are at the back side of our chassis, I forgot to mention in the front that our stock shocks were actually modified using an old, if I'm not mistaken, RX strut na sabog na. So as you can see, yung stock shocks dati may thread na dito, kung kita. So, na-machine siya, pinutol, pinasok, at winel. So yun na siya. Bale, yung stock shocks natin parang coil over na. But that does not remove the fact na limited pa rin ang travel natin. Kasi syempre, it's a long strut. It has a long travel, so our air out is still limited. For our rear suspension, we are actually running a multi-link suspension. Multi-link because we have a lateral arm here that connects to a bushing that actually has another arm behind the chassis. We have a camber arm, and beneath we have a lower control arm. Now, the main hurdle that we had to cross with this or jump over is actually, ito na yung pinakasagad talaga na magagawa namin dito sa bag na to, sa suspension, sa shock na to. Kasi underneath the shock is a fork, and in that fork is sandwiches our lower control arm. Now, the clearance was very small, very minimal, and we couldn't lower the shock anymore because it would start hitting the lower control arm against the bottom end of the shock. Now, was I aware of this? Yes, I was. And did that stop me from getting bags? No, it did not. Did not stop me. So same as the front, we are using an Arex sleeve bag. Clearance, it's it's pretty roomy back here. It's about like a quarter of an inch maybe, or 3/4 of an inch space away from the body of the car. And as you can see, our hose line is over here. It follows the hard line of the handbrake, same as the front. And everything looks more or less OEM, except for, of course, our air spring. Now, I think that's pretty much it for the backside of our suspension setup. Now, keep note that the EK uses a fork type suspension. So if you're using an EG, if I'm not mistaken, those are ball types, but you can convert them to fork types. You just have to change your lower control arms to fork type suspension. I think that's pretty much it for our back end. Now let's go to our layout. See you there. So here we are at the back side of the car, where we can talk about the layout. So let's talk about the first thing that we see, which is obviously the tank. I chose to actually have a hanging tank so that I can still use my trunk space, because I do daily this car and having trunk space is actually nice. But as you can see here at the back, I have my compressor over here. I have an amplifier in the middle, and we have our Fitment Gen 2 system here. And I actually already had that wood at the back to accommodate my amplifiers because I did have a sound system. So eventually I will probably put a sub back in here. Now, for now, I have a lot of trunk space for groceries. Kung bibili man akong gulong, o may isasakay ako ng mags, or whatever cargo I have, I still have trunk. And most of all, I still have my spare tire down there. Layout-wise, it's very compact. Our hoses are hidden, nice and tidy. We have this wood plank behind the tank to accommodate its hanging position, and sobrang galing ng paggagawa, sobrang linis. Very nice. And I think that's it for the back section of the car and its layout. It's fairly straightforward. And we'll see you in our conclusions. So, as we reach the conclusion part of this video, let's actually air up the car and talk about its dynamics. So ito siya full aired up. Let's talk about finger gaps. Dito sa harap, meron tayong 6-finger gap, which actually is a lot. And one finger is about 15 millimeters. So, Andre, pakimath na lang ilagay dito. Thank you. Sa likod naman, hindi siya nalalayo sa harap. Actually, it's around 7 fingers, more or less. So, just remember that actually the front arch will always be bigger than the rear to accommodate for steering. Now, yung fitment niya kapag air out, since ito lagi yung mahalaga sa tao, kung ano yung tindig pag nakasagad. So, at 0 PSI, full air out, ito yung tindig niya. Ngayon, yung harap, okay naman ako sa harap. So, quick disclaimer lang, these are 15s na wheels, and these are not my permanent wheels. These are just some loan me wheels that I borrowed, pansamantala, habang ginagawa pa yung mags ko na 16s. So, dito sa likod, hindi pa siya sagad na sagad due to the fact actually of the stock shocks that we used. So, unlike the front, as we previously discussed, sa harap kasi nasagad pa namin, may nagawa pa kaming paraan. Dito naman sa likod, masikip. It was really tight. Clearance was an issue. We didn't have much room to play with, especially with the fork and the lower control arm and how close it sits. But nonetheless, I'm actually very happy with how it sits because I'm very grateful that it's aired. So ngayon, is the Civic a good stance car? Yes. Can you bag your Civic? Of course. You can bag your EK, your EG, ESI. Kailangan mo lang alamin kung ball type or fork type ang iyong suspension sa likod. Pero nonetheless, it is a very good stance car. So, this has been Julio with Fitment TV, and I will see you in the next episode.